Oh, okay. I'm System Update, and we are doing a podcast this session about UFOs. A little bit in general, we're touching on the first sightings, like ancient accounts until modern ones. And this is my co-host.
Black and white GX. What's up? I just really remembered I can't swear here, but
I mean, you can swear. It's I swear, I think a few times last time.
yeah, but the editing is gonna be painful.
True. All right, so one of the most ancient accounts that I found, so I did a little research. I will say some of my sources were a bit questionable websites, especially when you're looking into UFO things. My first sighting that I found was in 1450 BC, ancient Egypt. A stele attributed to a Thutmose third at Jebel Barkal describes a star coming down that set enemies ablaze, speculated to be an early UFO account, though the source may be fraudulent. So there may be, a possibility that this person may have lied. Their name was, I think, I can barely pronounce it, but Thutmose the third. Tilly Papyrus was, I think, the source. And, you gotta kind of take that again, ancient Egypt. The next one was 122 BC, Italy. Pliny the Elder documented an event where three moons appeared simultaneously in the sky, a phenomenon often attributed to atmospheric illusions. And if I'm butchering words, I'm so sorry, y'all. And these are just ancient times. This is even before we hit the 1940s. Then you have 74 BC near Turkey. A Plutarch recounted a flame like object resembling a molten silver wine jar falling between two armies. Which is actually kind of interesting. Because imagine being in the middle of battle and this thing just falls between y'all.
That's
And
fucking
then
crazy.
that's what I'm saying. Imagine. And this one I really want your opinion on, GX. This one is 1561 Nuremberg, and then again at 1566 Basel. Eyewitnesses reported an aerial battle involving spheres, tubes, and crescents, depicted in broadsheets and woodcuts, possibly atmospheric pneumonia like sundogs, yet persisting in UFO lore.
Okay, so my opinion on that part specifically, since it's like such an old time period, it's kind of hard to pinpoint if that's true or not. But the way you described it it's a 50-50 chance if it is like legit or not.
Exactly. And again, these are BC. This is before a lot of things and, a lot of stuff was known about not only our world and what we find in it, and just in general, what things happen. And again, we didn't know much about space back then either. I will say, though, ancient Egypt is so old that even ancient Egypt was ancient to ancient Egypt.
Okay, it's funny you say that, but let me ask this before I go on. Will you be mentioning ancient Egypt again later on in this podcast?
Probably because ancient Egypt and UFOs, for some reason, the research they just overlap like a crap ton.
Okay, listen, I have a buttload of information once you bring that up again, so I'm just gonna hold my tongue and let you continue
I
with
mean,
your
if you want to
shit.
touch on it, we can. We already said there was a sighting in 1450 BC in Egypt, and if you want to go off from there, let's do it.
Okay, so I'm about to lock in and pop off real quick. All right.
Go for it.
So this information vetting is actually not just from like a random source or anything like that. This is from a scientist that's been studying this shit for years, or more so like an archaeologist kind of scientist. He goes by the name of Gregory. I can't pronounce his damn name. Gregory A. Tascolio, apparently. And so basically, like what he was researching and the shit that he put together was the fact that how intertwined that the aliens were kind of like affecting the ancient Egypt times. So all like the hieroglyphics and the gods that they used to believe in, those weren't gods at all. If you let's go back in time and put ourselves in that mindset real quick. So imagine you're in the ancient Egypt time, no technology, no nothing, and you just see a UFO or some shit just fall right down out of the sky with some anthropomorphic people or some shit. Are you gonna think, oh my god, it's an alien, or are you gonna be like, holy shit, it's a god? You're gonna think it's a fucking god. So what they did is they worshipped them, and again, there's the guy actually put two and two together and found proof of that by pointing out how different hieroglyphics had, if you pay attention, they had UFOs in them, and again, that whole part is insane. But I'm gonna let system take over.
So I did a little bit more research as you were talking about your scientist, and I did plug it into obviously my laptop, and it does bring up a text describing circles of fire, which is the Tilly Papyrus, which seems to be a document described by Boris D. Roschwitz in 1953, who claimed it was discovered among papers of Professor Alberto Tulli, the former director of the Vatican Egyptian Museum. The papyrus reportedly describes a circle of fire seen in the sky during the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose III. So, and then you were talking about I do remember seeing UFO hieroglyphics. I think the person I remember you talking. I think the person I think you're talking about is. He's a younger dude, isn't he, with crazy hair? Yeah.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
The scientist you're talking about, he's a gentleman with like he's like a well he was younger when it came out, but with like crazy hair, like you know what I mean?
Yep, that guy.
Okay. I think I remember what you're talking about. I think that's from Ancient Egypt's. It's like a show.
Yeah, Ancient Aliens, but he also, outside of the show, he did like outside of like, other research, because, the show eventually got discontinued, but he kept on going. And the more he kept on going, the more he found. And it wasn't just ancient Egypt. That's the crazy part. Stuff like fucking Stonehenge, the Mayans. It all boils down to like the same thing. Because if you look at it, you'll see like the same inscriptions from other shits. Like, let's be honest. You really think people way back then built Stonehenge with their hands with the shit that they had? They didn't have the tools to build the Stonehenge.
And if I remember last time we were doing when we were doing the Ken Webster the in plain sight book, there was a mention that I'm trying to remember. There was like something. Hold on. He had them not only go to someone that does research into mysteries in general, but someone who had done research into UFOs and was even by that 2109's account was a ufologist. And what's crazy is that something about 2109 was that there was a ley line under that house, which is something that's found at Stonehenge.
That's fucking crazy. Everything is going in a full circle right now.
So that it's quite crazy that you bring up Stonehenge because Stonehenge does have a ley line underneath it. So the position, I think, because I think there's more than one Stonehenge, isn't there? There's more than one area with rocks. Um,
Yeah,
there's one
kind
with
of. There's
faces, and there's the
one.
circular
Yeah,
one of just tall rocks.
yeah. And
And
if you
if I
pay
remember,
attention, they're both on like the other side of the road, like directly parallel to each other. That's the crazy part.
and I believe that that one is also on a ley line. I would have to double check, but if I remember correctly, that one is also on a ley line. And what's really interesting that when you look into hieroglyphics and stuff, you do see hieroglyphics of what can be depicted as helicopters, spaceships, things that could look like a flying saucer. And what keeps being brought up is something that looks like a crescent moon. And when you look up some of these hieroglyphics and you see the helicopter like drawings or the spaceship like drawings, you also see something that's a crescent moon. And again, a crescent moon is something that comes up a lot when you're doing research on this. But even in Australia, we find hieroglyphics of certain beetles and certain bugs drawn directly into carvings and things, which I find to be a bit interesting because Australia and Egypt are a bit far apart to me. Again,
Okay, I don't want to interrupt you, but it's funny you say that. But I'm gonna save that little tidbit you said with bugs for the next episode of the podcast. I'm gonna save that
okay.
for next week.
And we do see hieroglyphics of pharaohs sitting under a sphere with what seems to be not the sun, but beams coming down directly onto their heads. And a lot of people speculate that, you know what I mean, it might be motherships, it might be connections of them talking. I don't know. But it is quite interesting. But then again, it is ancient Egypt. It wasn't uncommon for pharaohs to wear long, the long hats and different types of crowns.
Right, right.
So that's another reason why I'm like, you know what I mean?
That see, that makes sense, but it's still hard to like kind of connect the dots. But at the same time, it's kind of overlapped so perfectly. I don't know if
And
you found this. Oh, sorry.
no, go, 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 go.
Yeah, I don't know if you researched this or not, but I know you've seen UFO sightings. Have you ever seen any of the crop circles yet? Have you touched on that shirt yet?
I have seen a few. I know there was someone asking about crop circles when I brought up the UFOs and everything for today's podcast, and that is something I do want us to look into because crop circles are interesting.
Right.
I believe it was ancient Taurus, yes. For anyone who doesn't know, we do this live. We do have a chat that we see before us. So yes, he is in the chat right now. Thank you. But yeah, no, I do want to touch on that. All right, now I just wanted to, you know what I mean? I was just bringing up sightings and how far back they went, and that alone to me crazy. They go back as far as literally 1450, 122, and 74 BC, which is crazy. And then in 1947, I won't lie, we get a private pilot who observed 9 high-speed crescent-shaped objects near Mount Rainier.
That's insane. I'm not gonna lie.
Because what else did I say earlier? There were crescent moon sightings in ancient times as well. And I believe in 1561 is where they said that they had a battle in the air of crescent moons and other tube-like objects.
Is there if I blow your mind real quick about these whole crop circles though?
Oh,
Just real
absolutely.
quickly.
No,
All right,
absolutely. If you
so
want to touch on the crop circles, I love to. I would love to hear everything on your mind.
okay, so here's the fucking tea behind the whole crop circle situation. So again, I don't know the names of the scientists specifically on this one, but I know this source is 100% reliable, but most other crop circles that have been cited or seen by literally anyone, nobody realized that those crop circles were actually digital codes that we couldn't like decipher until like the early 2000s. And it comes to find out that the crop circles are actually messages, but however, they haven't really told anyone what the messages was. I hope it is said hi or something. I don't know, but yeah, because the crop circles are built in a way that computers can look into it and decipher it, because it's kind of weird that it's kind of written in code, kind of. Like you put a picture of a crop circle into a computer and it'll read the ones and zeros in the crop circle for some reason. Didn't even know that there was like ones and zeros in those things, and can completely translate that into CDs. It's basically CD data.
Oh, you also have to remember there are a few crop circles out there that are fake. So in 1991, two Englishmen did confess to starting a crop circle phenomenon in the late 70s, inspired by the 1966 account of mysterious flattened reeds in Australia.
I mean, that is true. I know that most people fake those, but
Oh, no, no, I know.
again,
No, no, no. I just was letting people know that there are some that are fake, but the whole, like, it being like an ancient QR code, as one of our people in chat has said, is kind of astonishing. And what we can do is one of these podcast episodes, we can genuinely go on to, I believe, certain government websites do have classified documents that get published after a certain amount of years.
right?
So, and I do remember that in the recent years, obviously, the government has talked about UFOs being real. And I do want to see if they have uncovered anything that we can look through. I mean, especially if we're going to talk about UFOs, we do have to talk about Roswell.
That is
Because I
true.
feel like Roswell is one of the biggest ones that a lot of people know about. It was initially reported as a flying disc. The military later claimed that it was debris from a weather balloon. The case has since become a very foundational UFO conspiracy theory. But not only that, I think even the people of New Mexico even talked about this. And then I believe quite a few of them didn't believe the military's explanation.
That's fucking crazy.
And I won't lie, not too long after that. So Roswell 1947 is when the incident happened. It was July 1947. And it's quite interesting that that date pops up because, again, everyone knows the Roswell incident, but no one knows that I think it's either before or after. I can't remember the exact date that Roswell happened. But July 4th, 1947, there was a Flight 105. A United Airlines crew reported multiple UFOs over the Pacific Northwest. The first such sighting by professional pilots, though later attributed to known objects or an illusion. Another atmospheric illusion. So those are quite close to each other. The dates, at least. And again, this is a flight crew, not passengers, the crew. And this is the exact same month, the exact same year as Roswell, New Mexico.
That is fucking insane, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
So that being back to back the same year, a little weird, and a little, coincidental that they seem to have something for each one.
Right.
And not to mention, January 7th, 1948, there was the Mantell incident in Kentucky, USA, where a pilot, Captain Thomas Mantell, died pursuing a large, unidentified object. The object was later identified as Venus or a skyhook balloon, but then again, this is the second time that they say it's a balloon.
So what you're saying is that they try to pass it off as a balloon, but actually,
Yeah. So they said it was identified as Venus or a skyhook balloon. But I find that interesting because I mean, I don't know how he died. You know what I mean? I didn't look too much into how he died. Just the fact that he died pursuing something. And that to me is weird.
Very.
And then again, 1950s, there was official investigations and iconic sightings of the 1950 Great Falls Mariana. Nick Mariana filmed two silvery objects overhead. The Air Force initially blamed reflections from jet fighters. A conclusion later retracted and reinstated. Which was Montana, USA.
Hold on, because I can see chat. I'm gonna respond to this real quick because this is a really good, like,
No, go for
tidbit that I
it.
see
You
right
can
here.
respond to chat. I don't mind if you type and respond to chat. I just don't want to like edit later on. You know what I mean?
No, you're good because I'm just gonna like mention it because this is a really good one. It's actually true that one of the episodes of X-Files is actually based on that. A lot of stuff that happened in real life is kind of like inspired an episode in X-Files, ironically.
Okay.
In the original, like the first 3 seasons. After that, it's kind of just whatever.
And then I won't lie, I also do want us to do an episode about Project Blue Book.
You're gonna have to explain to me what that is. I don't have that well thought of a knowledge of that.
Now, okay, I'll start a little bit earlier. So these are all just the accounts. These are just sightings that I have put down. So, obviously in 1950s with the official iconic sightings, the Great Falls. I read that one to y'all. And then after that one in 1951, a year later in Lubbock, the Lubbock Lights. The Lubbock Lights was in, of course, Lubbock, Texas, USA. Professors actually, observed a V-shaped light in the sky. The U.S. Air Force could not explain most of these sightings. So this was multiple people. And they didn't even try to cover that one, I don't think.
I have a theory, a small theory based off the information we have. And my small theory is that what if, since the government already knows, what if they were working with aliens this entire time?
I mean, it wouldn't be shocking. I think I mentioned in the last podcast, and someone else did mention in chat. It was Taurus again. Slay, we love that he's catching these. Time travel, not only that, but 2109 seemed to again be interested in the ufologist. Time travel, aliens. A lot of people believe that it goes hand in hand. I do believe the categories do intersect because again, I look not to bring Star Trek into this because me being a Trekkie, black holes, all that stuff, and we are technically in a black hole. So I don't know if anyone knows that, but apparently, currently, we are in a black hole.
That's 100% true, actually.
I believe I read it in a news article. I'll have to find it and post it. And that does make me think about 2109 and the possibility again of him. You, I think, mentioned last episode, him possibly being alien tech.
Yes.
What if it's like all together? What if 2109 started this as a way to distract certain phenomenons?
Okay, you know what? That's different. That is different.
And there's even a theory, like someone mentioned in chat, that they're okay. So if you are in the alien community and you know that there's different species of aliens that the community believes in. There's the gray aliens. I think there's blue ones and an aquatic one. I don't know about all of them. Again, there's a lot of information out here. I can only get so much put together. But someone in chat right now is that there's a theory that gray aliens are future astronauts coming back into the past. I don't know. Could be a stretch. But who knows?
I mean, that makes sense, and I kind of don't want to nerd out real quick because, again, I was always into sci-fi shit, and I'm just gonna nerd out a little bit. Um, that actually could be possible because when you're in space, time moves very differently. Like a day, if you were to go in space right now, and you were to stay there for like 3 months, right? You would come back like 5 to 6 months have passed.
Well, not to mention those people that were stuck in space. They were stuck there
Exactly.
for, I believe, almost 8 months.
Exactly. And granted or not, most of the astronauts have to land in Point Nemo. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's 100% unrelated. Even though it's kind of sketchy that it's landed right in the center of Bermuda Triangle. That's a story for another day. But getting back to it though, yeah. So it's 100% possible for that to happen. But the thing is though, the small little scientific stretch and why I say slightly possible because it will have to be really far and really deep into space for it to pass years, almost decades for them, and just be like 2, 3 months, maybe a year for them. And for them to survive in space with limited resources and shit like that, and not only that, but the lack of oxygen and the food and all that shit, yeah, no.
Well, like I was saying with 2109 and the mentioning of the government working with aliens is, I remember when we were talking about 2109 and you brought up the alien tech, and we brought up some of the messages between 2109 and Ken Webster,
Mm-hmm.
where he talks about, well, 2109 talks about themselves not only as a third person, but. Ooh, is there an echo?
Is it?
I think there's like a small one. It should be okay. But was that the government had admitted to aliens contacting us. And not only that, but said that they could help us evolve and to be just like them. And if I remember correctly, they were considered that we choose to reincarnate as humans. They can help us stop the cycle and reincarnate as something like them, something bigger, something more. And that makes me wonder if that message is from the same people that run 2109, or if it was 2109. And when the government didn't listen, they decided to play with time.
That's. I can't even respond to that one. My brain is still trying to process that.
Because I do remember in the Ken Webster files, which I can still probably pull up, 2109 mentions themselves being a collective, and that they're serving God, or what they perceive to be God.
So basically, like a hive mind.
Kind of. I would believe so. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like a collective.
They can be like everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
Which is exactly how 2109 describe themselves. Keep wanting to say he, but 2109 describes themselves as they, them. It is believed, and I remember someone right now in chat is mentioning this, that they disassembled a UFO in Area 51 and used some of that tech on the B-2 stealth bomber. I mean, again, these are all speculations, wonders, just, you know, us chatting and talking. But if we go a little bit more into the sightings after Lubbock, there is a sighting again a year later, 1952, this time in Washington, D.C. UFO incidents and Project Blue Book. Please remember Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book, if I remember correctly, is one of the biggest projects that's talked about in the alien community. I can be wrong. But multiple radars detected unknowns. Prompted U.S. fighters. It prompted them to deploy U.S. fighters. Project Blue Book conducted thousands of investigations, 12,618, with 700 of them remaining unexplained before being shut down in 1969. So Project Blue Book was their way of looking into UFO sightings. And again, there was over 12,000 cases. So again, all the sightings I have right now are these are small ones. Okay? I only saved as much as I could remember. You know, your girl can only do so much. But again, over 12,618 investigations were done, and 701 of them remained unexplained before they shut it down in 1969. So that's about what? 1952 to 1969 is about what? A couple of years of looking into shit.
Right.
And again, they gave up after a few cases. They were like, you know what? 701 of these aren't getting explained. We're not making any mistakes. They just happen.
Sweep it under the rug like the rest.
And then in the 1950s, additional cases did come up. We have the McMinnville UFO photographs, which is in Oregon, USA. I think this one specifically was 1950. Again, iconic yet unexplained. And then after that, you have the Leveland case, which is in Texas in 1957. Glowing objects caused cars to stall. Which I will admit something. There was a time. Okay, I will admit there was a time where I used to do like Uber Eats. And me and this person would drive around, and there was a time where I was sitting in the back seat because, you know, again, it's always safer to travel in twos when you're doing Uber Eats. You never know what kind of people you're gonna get. But one day when I was sitting in the back seat, I swear on my life, there was this glowing blue ball of light that was there and then just gone. It was like in the dark of like the back roads. We were, I think, crossing over a train track, and I turned my head to look into all the grassy area, and there was this bright blue ball, and it was just gone. The person I was with swears they didn't see it, but I swear on my life there was a bright blue ball just floating there in the middle of all the grass, and it was just gone. Again, it could have been a phone, it could have been anyone, but I didn't see anyone.
Right.
And it wasn't like a phone glow blue. It was like a sphere. Like, the best way I can describe it is like CGI movie tech. Like that when they do alien movies, there's like that glowing ball of energy that seems to power everything. It looked like just like that, but if you kind of gave it that hue from the Zelda fairies.
Not the Zelda fairies.
So that's the only thing that came to mind as I can describe it as. Is like a Zelda fairy just floating around.
I get it, just without the wings.
Yeah, it's just a blue ball. It's just blue ball.
Yeah.
And so it is crazy to see a glowing object cause car stalling in the 1957. Nothing happened to our
That's
car, but
crazy.
I was just saying, the moment I saw it, it was gone within a blink of an eye.
That is crazy.
Now, I do have some abductions and close encounters put down on here. Quite a few, actually. I have about 9 pages of notes. When I tell
9?
y'all, when I tell you I look into things, I look into things. I do my best, okay? In the 1960s and the 1970s, there was abductions and close encounters. 1961. This one I do remember. So there was a time. So I won't lie. Some of these notes I've had for a while. I was very into UFOs a year or two ago. I mean, not even. It was a year ago. Because when I first started streaming, I was talking about UFOs all the time, but the people I was streaming with weren't into that topic, so I never got to really do more with it.
Right.
But Betty and Barney Hill are kind of our set off when it comes to UFO abduction.
Right.
So Betty and Barney Hill, New Hampshire, USA, 1961, are the first famous alien abduction claim. And I don't have my full notes on how they were abducted. I have to find that notebook. But they go into full detail, and they even go into accounts of being abducted more than once, even.
Shit. More than once?
More than once.
How?
And then again,
Okay,
in 1964, there was a Socorro encounter.
Oh boy.
And this one is reported by a police officer. Again, this is the Socorro encounter 19. Wait, what were you gonna say? My bad.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say this. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with the movie Fire in the Sky. Anyone at all?
I don't
that
believe
movie
so.
is actually that movie. Okay, it's kind of demented as fuck, but when you get the chance, watch it because it's literally a real life storytelling of someone being abducted and what it was like for them.
There are some videos that I would love for us to watch if you guys are down after this podcast, where it goes into full details, and some of the encounters I read about, I believe, do get talked about. But there is, in this one is, this is New Mexico again, 1964, New Mexico.
Right.
Police officer Lonnie Zamora reported a landed craft with beings complete with physical trace evidence.
No boy.
Now, this is 1964. Now, let me scroll up a little bit. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. 1964. Roswell, New Mexico happened in 47.
What?
Yeah. So this encounter was not too far before Roswell, New Mexico.
So it's like it's been like a reoccurring thing at this point.
Exactly. And not only that, this one was police officers reported this one. And then again in 1964, there was another incident, Pennsylvania, USA. Yes, these are all USA ones, the sightings and encounters, but I do go into global ones next, I believe. But Kecksburg incident, Pennsylvania, USA, a bell-shaped object reportedly crashed in the woods, remains unexplained. And then not even in 65, in Michigan, there was something called the swamp gas case, which was attributed to atmospheric phenomena. which was dismissed publicly, which means a huge group of people in 1965 saw something. I couldn't find much about it. I really do want to look more into this. But the group saw something and it was dismissed as a as meteoric phenomenon.
That's crazy.
Now, this one is Canadian. The Shag Harbor incident. A UFO allegedly crashed into the water. No resolution found. But again, this isn't going to be the first case we hear about UFOs crashing into water.
So what are the other moments?
This one is two men claimed to be abducted while fishing. And that was in Mississippi, Pascagoula. And before that, just before that, that was 73. And in 69, Blue Book ends. And then again,
it seems like.
Oh, I'm bad. My bad.
It seems like back then, you're good. It seems like back then they were a lot more like adopting. I know that's not a word, but they were way more out to like get people. But it seems like these days, I don't know if you noticed, but when was like the last time you heard someone being abducted? And this
actually, recently.
Oh,
there was someone on TikTok that I was following quite closely who had been claimed to have been abducted. This was about the time that I think Mexico had confirmed aliens as well. This young lady, I want to say she was Hispanic. I want to say sometime in her early 20s, 22 at most. And she was going on about how she'd been abducted. That it was like they had her laying there and they were just like, and she said she had been abducted multiple times. They were nice, that they were friendly, that they had big black eyes that were contacts. And she said that they wore these contacts because there wasn't enough moisture in the air, that that their mucous membranes couldn't handle our sicknesses. And so they're kind of in suits. And she goes, they're like kind of slimy, but it's only so they can protect themselves. And that they wear these big contacts to keep their eyes moisturized. And not only that, the reason that the contacts are jet black is because they're scleras to protect their eyes from the sun. And she quite literally draws these like aliens that abducted her and to talk about it. And it's multiple videos throughout at least a couple weeks. And then, I won't lie, she disappeared from my timeline. And I've got ADHD, so I kind of just forgot about her until right now. But she was very much active on social media, claiming to have been abducted. Which, honestly, I find to be interesting. It was in great detail. She gave so much information. And honestly, there were people in the comments that were like, I kind of have dreams like this. I thought it was just dreams. So again, take that with what as you will. Grain of salt. But there are people on TikTok that are telling their story. And there are people, again, you have to remember, social media right now is still kind of new. And so now there is a place to put all these sightings, these abductions, without making them official.
Right.
But it's one of those, how serious can you take some of them? How credible can some of them be?
That part.
I do see here you have Travis Walton, alleged abduction that sparked the film Fire in the Sky, 1975. So I did write that down. I was wondering why that was bugging me. Because that was bugging me a little bit. I was like, I've never seen that movie. But I was like, the name was bugging me. But yeah, this sparked the film. And that was 1975. And then in 1976, again, this is international. This is Iran, my bad. Iran. Tehran incident. F4 pilots saw a UFO encountering equipment malfunctions. It's a little specific. You know what I mean? Like, how'd you know they were malfunctioning? Did you talk to them? Did you ask? I mean, it's also a good guess. I mean, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, those are also pilots driving an F4 or whatever, flying an F4.
Right.
And that's 1976. And in 1978, we do see in Australia, Frederick Valentich, a pilot disappeared after reporting a UFO following his plane. He disappeared. Where he at?
He was abducted permanently.
I don't know. Maybe he knew too much. Maybe he saw too much. And these are encounters that are globally. So right now, these are 1980s to 1990s. These are high profile. These are encounters that are global. The 1980 Rendlesham Forest, UK, U.S. military personnel witnessed. Again, this is U.S. military personnel witnessed lights and triangular crafts. Skeptics point to misidentification, while others propose pranks. That's a bit weird because we do see triangular light sightings a little bit earlier. I believe in the 70s. Do we not? Did I mention?
That is true. Yep.
So, okay. In 1986, a JAL flight 1628 in Alaska, USA, a cargo crew tracked a large UFO on radar. And that's not even mentioning, again, a year later, in the Gulf Breeze, Florida, USA, series of sightings and photos. They were later subject to hoax and accusations, but did come out about seeing UFOs. And then again, in the, I want to say late 80s, early 1990s, a Belgian UFO wave comes about, and it's talked about as a triangular object tracked by radar in Belgium, officially investigated by Operation Triangle. They don't say what the sightings were officially. At least I couldn't find it. Again, I do want us to do this. We could take it bit by bit for all I care. But that's another one that I do want to look into. Because what was that? Because this is, again, I think the third time we hear about a triangular object in the sky.
Triangular? That's disturbing.
Sir, yes, sir. And then here we are, 1991, a Mexico sighting. Well, Mexico City sighting. A metallic disc captured on video during a solar eclipse. And then here we are 3 years later. 1994, aerial school in Zimbabwe. School children reported a UFO and small beings landing near them. Again, here we are 3 years later, the Phoenix Lights. Thank you, Nikki. Nikki mentioned that in the comments, y'all, and that was my next one. I was so excited to see it. The Phoenix Lights happen in Arizona, USA. A massive V-shaped light formation observed by thousands remains unexplained despite official flare explanations. So they said, I think they believed it was a light flare or a sun flare. I think they described it as. And again, that's another famous one, high profile. And a lot of people don't believe that they were flares. Just like Nikki in our comments does not believe that they were flares, as she should. Hey. And then this one is just a little tidbit. They did keep formation way too long. I do agree. And again, that was in 1997, a year before I was born. Now here's another one. In 97, Heaven's Gate cult, 39 members perished believing a spaceship would escort them, stemming from UFO beliefs. That one is just a little tidbit about how UFOs and everything happen. So again, I'm all for believing in UFOs. Let's also keep a little, touchy grass feeling to it though. Because I'm all for UFOs, talking UFOs. I like being a little crazy. Let's not perish for our beliefs of UFOs, please. Thank you. Now, this is again, we're starting to hit the 21st century. So we're starting to hit 2006 and beyond. So you've got in 06, the O'Hare Airport, Chicago, USA, a saucer-like object is reportedly seen hovering above a terminal, then rapidly ascending through the clouds. FAA called it weather-related. I don't know if that would be weather-related. That's just me. What are they going to say? It's
That's
weather-related?
definitely a stretch.
I think that's such a stretch. To say that it's weather-related, I would have lied and said it was a weather balloon. At least, you're already bringing weathers into it. So, 2004 to 2021, Pentagon and the UAP Task Force in 2020 was established. They established the UAP Task Force following the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which I believe was from 2007 to 2012 as well. And in 2021 released a report on 144 UAP incidents. Some showed erratic motions unexplained in conventional physics. Again, that's just them telling us, hey, we put this task force together just to let you know. They just do that. Again, really doesn't tell us much. And this was, until recently, they did have a hardcore program again in 2007 and 2012, which I think is interesting because it sounds like Project Blue Book is still going on in my eyes. It doesn't look like Project Blue Book ever ended, or at least off paper it never ended. On paper they just changed the name. And again in 2025 we have East Java in Indonesia. A Reddit user shared sightings posted to NUFORC described a rotating star-like object near Orion's belt, speculated to be a part of the Starlink satellite network. Again, could be, maybe, but who knows? In 2025, again, we see in, I'm gonna butcher this name, Gaziantep Airport, Turkey, flights grounded after pilots reported a radar invisible object at 10,000 feet. Though the investigation labeled it an unauthorized drone, conspiracy theories on Reddit predict the impending contact by 2027. Now this one is a little interesting. Now this I believe is the final one I'm going to mention. This is 2025, recent, Disney World, Florida, Epcot. A UFO reportedly hovered over Epcot during fireworks. Speculations ranged from secret rockets to police helicopters. There was no definitive identification that had emerged.
At Epcot? Out of all places?
Epcot, dog.
It's wild, I'm not gonna lie.
And those are my 9 pages of notes.
Oh man.
So that's a nice little breakdown and timeline of how many sightings
Yeah.
that we can talk about. And these are very few of the 12,000 that have been happening. And I genuinely believe that 2109 may be one of these phenomena. I mean, it brings in a lot of questions. Why does he bring a ufologist into this? Why does he bring up UFOs in general? And why does he pick a spot that has a ley line? Our ley lines
Right.
are the easiest way for them to contact us? Or do they boost signals? Are ley lines just the veins of the earth?
Those are a lot of questions that I cannot answer right now.
But this is quite interesting. So I do want to hear some of your thoughts on UFOs. I'm gonna let you go, obviously, because I know you are quite excited for this. I'm gonna let you go.
Alright, so this kind of like, putting a little bow on everything, at least for this episode. I'm not gonna lie, my whole perspective and thoughts on USO, I almost said USOs, UFOs in general. So, hold on, I'm trying to gather my fucking brain real quick. Hold on. All right. So my thoughts on the UFOs is basically like, I feel like they're trying to communicate, especially with like the crop circles, and also the fact that they have been around and kind of like, you know, helping us out in the ancient times. It's kind of like they've always been there and don't intend to leave. Shit, who knows? They could already be here on a planet with us without us even knowing. You know? Now, I don't want to sound like the motherfuckers that be having, like, the tinfoil hat, and all that shit. But, I mean, like, we're in a day and age where the government just announced, like, yeah, UFOs exist, but it's kind of like to the point where, well, duh, we already kind of fucking knew that. But, finishing this off, though, is kind of like a weird feeling, because what if our technology came from them? What if the way we advanced and grown as humanity is from them? You know what I mean? And again, I'm gonna do this like a small little segue here. So next time, I know System's probably gonna have like, doing more of her research on her end. I have another small theory from the same scientists from Ancient Aliens, of course, where that people are thinking that, and the aliens are already here in the smallest form that no one even knows. Bugs. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic back to System.
Okay, you mentioned bugs, slay. Someone in chat did bring up USOs, unidentified submersible objects, which is another thing we're gonna have to talk about. So, like I said, theirs was like at least 2 that I mentioned, maybe 3 that were around water, 2 of which crashed into water on my list of sightings and everything.
That actually makes sense the way you say that.
I believe that they're in the water. That's just me. Again, that's just me. But I believe since we haven't discovered enough of our aquatic life, and there's obviously 110% that they're gonna hide there, because
It's been
again,
confirmed that there's water in
aliens
the
in the
water.
water.
Like,
Oh,
I don't even know
100%.
how.
And I think for the longest time, I don't know if we still do. I could be wrong. But for the longest time, I believe we didn't know how eels made more of themselves.
That's true.
They would just from migrate to the Bermuda Triangle and come back in the thousands.
And it's funny that you say that because I was just about to say if aliens were to exist anywhere in the ocean, it would be there.
I'm gonna be honest. I think octopuses might be aliens. I know that's a stretch, but they're too fucking smart, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
It's been scientifically proven that the octopus is the
Entirely too
second
fucking
smartest
smart.
creature on the planet. The number one smartest creature on the planet.
And we
You would
eat
think it
it.
would be humanity.
Scared.
The smartest thing on the planet isn't humans, it's actually dolphins.
And that's another one that I think are aliens. First of all, I think they're like frat boy aliens. Because if you know, okay, look, I'm a Floridian. If you know anything about dolphins, you know that they are terrifying creatures.
Yeah, I can agree.
They're so cutesy cutesy. No, they're evil incarnate.
Not only that, but it's also been well known that some dolphins know how to make themselves get high. They literally
They use
like
pufferfish.
like
They bite and
yeah,
play
they
around with pufferfish.
yeah.
So if you guys didn't think dolphins knew how to do weird stuff, they do. And if they ever come out as aliens, I'd believe it. They're too smart, and I don't like it. Same with octopuses. Too smart, don't like it. They can open doors, they can escape, they can open jars, get themselves out of jars. I don't like it.
They can camouflage.
That too, again, I don't like it.
There could be one right behind you, and you never know.
And just die. Imagine. But no, that's
from the ceiling and lands on your face.
I would honestly, I would hear me panicking 110%. Be straight up, girl screams 1,000%. I would sound like a scary movie. But I believe that today is our podcast.